From the industry point of view, the UK industry is completely in favour of regulating. We only sell to over 18s as much as we can anyway, and that's fairly easy to do. You know, we can pretty much anyone with a credit card, anyone with an adult validated mobile phone. The problem isn't coming from the local industry; it's coming from international sites that are giving it away for free, and they actually. We don't like them any more than anyone else because they're killing the market. they use free porn to promote other services.
I would really like there to be a default setting that this stuff doesn't come into my home unless I press a button. Porn is a great thing for adults if they want to get their jollies. I have no objections whatsoever. But I just think that the default mode should be off. And then if you want to access it, if you're an adult, you can put it on again. And that's what I would really like.
So how possible is that?
Well, the mobile phones are doing it.
The mobile phones are doing that, but what about
the ISP, this has been our campaign slogan for a few years now. Either the hardware manufacturers themselves, which would be Motorola, Samsung, Apple for the iPhone, or Compaq, Dell, the people supplying the actual physical devices that we use to connect to the internet. Either they should pre-install and pre-configure, because I'll bet you a pound to a penny that a lot of the parents that you picked up in your survey said, yes, we've got this filtering software, but I wonder how many of them have set it either at all or have set it correctly. So the stuff should be preloaded and pre-configured and set to a high level of safety to keep out the porn and keep out the violence. They can change it if they want to, but you shouldn't have to jump through hoops to make it safer. You should have to jump through hoops to make it less safe or to liberalise it. And you could do that either at the level of the hardware manufacturers or at the level of the internet service providers, the connection providers. Now, compared with the mobile phone, the mobile phone industry are saintly almost in my book because they have done a lot of stuff. But bear in mind, they come from an environment where they're used to being regulated. Telecoms is a highly regulated environment and it has been for years. So it wasn't difficult to persuade the mobile phone companies to do all this stuff. We did have to persuade them, but they did it. The ISPs, nothing. Not one single ISP in Britain does anything of the kind.
The ISPs have kind of, from a business point of view, resist any kind of regulation, and in a way,
they can do it voluntarily.
Yes, but the press resists regulation, but it has to have it.
The mobile phone industry were not compelled to do any of it; they did it voluntarily.
How many ISPs are there?
Well, there's about 500, but there's only about 10 that matter. BT, Virgin, TalkTalk, there's only a relatively small number.
So the government could get them together and they could work out a strategy of dealing with it.
The mechanisms actually exist. The Internet Watch Foundation's been around a long time to deal with the most extreme stuff, so the mechanisms exist. Again, it's just making sure that you don't put censorship control in the hands of companies. So again, I'd be completely behind the ideas you're talking about. It makes perfect sense. But giving people the control to switch stuff back on rather than blocking it from them altogether.
Yeah, I think governmental recognition of this as a problem has been very low so far, and I think if the government spent a fraction of what they have done so far, for example, on kind of recycling and on the public information in relation to that, in relation to other public health problems like heart disease or something like that, if they spent a fraction of it in terms of really pushing this agenda, some real progress could be made.
The policy of the government, established in 1996, by the way, in other words, under the last Conservative government, was one of self-regulation. So the professed policy has always been to try to get the industry itself to do it. And in the case of mobiles, they responded. In the case of the ISPs, they didn't.
We did try to get Sarah Tether to come, and she has asked to see the results of our roundtable discussion. And Virgin Media were invited, but they declined.
There is regulation being put into place currently, and a new body's been set up called APVOD, which is supposed to govern video providers. The problem is it aims at the content end of the market, and they can only regulate content providers in the UK. So we jump through hoops. We have to pay $2,500 a year and sign up, and that's not a big problem. The problem is that they don't have jurisdiction over any of the people who are actually creating the real problem, and that's why the ISPs, the people who are delivering the content rather than the people who are providing it, need to be the ones really who are targeted.
Those are the pinch points. It's the device or the network connectivity.
And what about search companies?
Well, the way it works with search is they all block child porn, by the way. Every one of the companies, including the ISPs, all block access to child abuse images by default. You can't, well, 98.6% of them, to be precise, do by default. With legal porn, other than the mobile phone companies, nobody's doing anything at the moment.
So Google automatically won't deliver porn unless you ask for it. So
Yeah, sorry, I lost my thread there. The search engines all block child porn. With Google, you can switch it on. Child pornography, sorry, child abuse images.
Yeah.
But with Google, there is a setting in Google that will stop all porn. But you need to know it's there and you need to turn it on. The porn industry has no right to, as it were, intervene in family life in this sort of way and create.
Yes, but the world intervenes, and you constantly have to deal with
There are
health.
degrees. Look, let's be clear about this whole thing about the longevity of the internet and the longevity of this experience. It is still relatively new. The proper starting point for this discussion is when broadband became available on a wide scale, because pre-broadband you really had to be a serious geek or nerd or addict to go after it off FTP servers or Usenet newsgroups. It's really only in the last 10 years or less that this has become a reality for most people. And the second point, and I do think this is also incredibly important, is what the internet has done is made available a vast panoply of sexual acts and of a perverted nature or cruel nature that was simply never there before on this scale.
And
to get hold of some of the pictures that you can now get hold of at the click of a mouse years ago took a great deal of time, effort and risk and money.